When the Plath family first appeared on our screens, they were presented as the picture of traditional American values. A soft-spoken, God-fearing, music-loving family living on a farm in Georgia, raising their 9 kids far from the influence of modern culture. No sugar, no smartphones, no social media, no television. It was the kind of image that made some people nostalgic and others deeply uncomfortable. And at the center of it all stood Kim and Barry Plath, parents, partners, and the undeniable power behind the family's carefully controlled world. But now, the world they built has officially crumbled. After 24 years of marriage, Kim and Barry Plath have ended their relationship. For fans of Welcome to Plathville, this news is more than just another reality TV breakup. It's the unraveling of what was once portrayed as an unshakable family unit, and a moment that reveals just how much of the image we were given was held together by silence, sacrifice, and control. Hey everyone, I'm Sabrina, and welcome back to TLC's Welcome to Plathville News. If you're as shocked and emotional about this split as I am, you're not alone. Today, we're talking about what's really going on with Kim and Barry Plath, what led to the breakdown, how the kids are coping, and why this moment marks something much bigger than just the end of a marriage. This isn't just about divorce, it's about the collapse of a lifestyle, of values, beliefs, and control systems that were never as solid as they appeared. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and like this video if you've been following this family from the beginning. And I'd love to hear what you think. Are you surprised? Did you see this coming? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I know so many of you have your own opinions on Kim, Barry, and everything this split represents. What we're seeing now isn't just the fallout of a relationship. It's the ripple effect when a highly controlled, hyper-religious structure starts to crack. And those cracks didn't happen overnight. They've been there, hidden behind polite smiles, modest dresses, and carefully staged moments of family unity. But now, we're finally seeing what's been buried for years, and that's exactly what we're digging into today. Looking back, the warning signs were always there. It just took a while for them to rise above the surface. In Season 4 of Welcome to Plathville, what once looked like simple disagreements between Kim and Barry started to reveal their much deeper divide. And for anyone paying close attention, it was clear that something had shifted, especially in Kim. Kim Plath wasn't the same woman we had seen guiding her kids barefoot through daily life on the farm. She was quieter, more distant, and less concerned with playing the role of the ever-dutiful wife and mother. She started prioritizing her own space, her own time. She opened up a dance studio. She stopped wearing long skirts and started dressing differently. Her routine changed, but so did the energy around her. It was like she had stepped out of the skin she had worn for decades and was finally breathing for the first time. Emotionally, she admitted that something inside her had gone numb. In a conversation with Barry featured on the show, Kim shared that while she had brought up concerns about the marriage over the years, nothing ever actually changed. Yes, Barry might try to adjust for a few days or weeks, but soon enough, everything went right back to what it was status quo. Kim said she was tired of staying quiet, tired of pretending, and tired of bearing the emotional weight alone. That kind of exhaustion doesn't stem from one fight, it builds over years of feeling unseen and unheard. Meanwhile, Barry seemed reluctant to acknowledge how serious things had gotten. In multiple episodes, he came across as stunned, even confused. He said he'd never imagined Kim would go this far. Instead of addressing her concerns head-on, he defaulted to what had always worked in their marriage: gifts, gestures, routines. He mentioned bringing her cards, buying her chocolate, thinking small acts of kindness would heal what years of emotional distance had damaged. But Kim made it clear that wasn't enough anymore. Barry had always leaned into the traditional role, the spiritual head of the household, the protector of the family unit, the man whose leadership went unquestioned. Kim breaking away from that model wasn't just a shift in their relationship, it was a direct challenge to the belief system they'd raised their family on. As Kim began imagining a life outside of submission and religious order, Barry clung more tightly to it. But at some point, love without real listening turns into something that feels more like control. And by Season 4, that's exactly what we were watching happen. One of the most heartbreaking moments in Season 4 was watching Kim finally say out loud what had likely been building up inside her for years. She sat across from Barry, calm but resolved, and she told him the truth. She had been communicating her unhappiness for a long time, but nothing ever really changed. She wasn't angry, she wasn't dramatic, she was just done. And the weight of that moment was undeniable because you could tell it wasn't something she'd decided overnight. This was years' worth of emotional silence, overlooked pleas, and ignored discomfort finally turning into a decision. Kim explained that she had tried to make their marriage work. She gave small signals, she had conversations, she expressed that she felt trapped, isolated, and unseen. But each time she brought those feelings up, things might have improved for a short moment, just long enough for Barry to feel like he'd fixed it. Then everything would go back to exactly how it was. What Kim made clear on camera was that the life they had built no longer matched who she was becoming, and staying any longer would have meant abandoning herself. Barry's reaction, though, was deeply telling. In his mind, the marriage wasn't in a crisis. Sure, things weren't perfect, but to him, love looked like offering small gifts, words of appreciation, spiritual leadership. He even mentioned buying her cards, flowers, and chocolates, like that could stand in for real emotional connection. And when that didn't work, he turned to blame, calling Kim selfish for wanting to leave, for trying to find happiness outside the role he believed she was meant to stay in. That word, selfish, wasn't just personal. It echoed the exact kind of mindset Kim had begun to reject. In their world, where the man is the authority and the woman is expected to obey, selfish becomes any action she takes that threatens that order. Barry wasn't just angry she was leaving. He was shaken by the fact that she no longer accepted the belief system they'd spent 24 years living by. Kim had started learning who she was, outside the polished image of the pure, submissive wife. She opened her own dance studio. She started to move in ways that weren't about anyone else's approval. For a woman who spent most of her adult life told how to live, that shift was everything. While Barry clung to the past, Kim was stepping into the unknown. And even though it was scary, it looked a lot like freedom. If there's one space where the cracks in Kim and Barry's lifestyle philosophy became painfully obvious, it's through the eyes and experiences of their older children. Ethan, Mariah, and Micah didn't just distance themselves from their parents' control. They basically had to learn how to function as adults once they finally got out. Things most people take for granted: simple life skills, social understanding, emotional independence, weren't part of their education at all. And yes, we saw that play out in Welcome to Plathville in ways that were sometimes sad, sometimes shocking, and often hard to ignore. One of the most unforgettable moments from early seasons was Ethan, as a fully grown adult, admitting on camera that he'd never used an ATM. Not once. Think about that for a second. Never withdrawing money by yourself in your 20s. And that wasn't a one-off. He'd never had soda, never tried alcohol, and barely experienced any kind of independent adult life until after marrying Olivia. That's not just sheltered. That's emotionally and socially stunted. And the weight of that wasn't lost on him either. You could see the frustration on his face when he talked about the limitations he'd grown up with. The fact that his world was so tightly controlled, he wasn't even allowed to question it. Micah and Mariah went through the same thing. Micah, when he started modeling and spending time with people outside the family's bubble, had to completely build a new identity. He wasn't just adjusting to city life or fashion gigs. He was learning how to be a person on his own, without the constant oversight of a belief system that told him what to wear, what to say, and who to be. And then there's Mariah. She's been one of the most vocal about her emotional struggles, especially after her breakup with Max. In an interview with People, she shared that during this heartache, she actually began reconnecting with her mom. That really says something. For so long, Kim was seen as the strict enforcer, the one who laid down the rules and wouldn't budge. But when Mariah was going through her most vulnerable moment, Kim was one of the few people she turned to. Maybe because, for the first time, Mariah saw that her mom was struggling too, not as a disciplinarian, but as a woman breaking free and trying to heal. Still, the damage was done. The kids, especially the older ones, have spoken openly about how undereducated they were because of the way homeschooling was used more as a method of control than academic development. Mariah and Micah both admitted they didn't even have GEDs and had no clear path to higher education because their schooling left massive gaps. They weren't set up to thrive outside their parents' worldview. They were prepared to conform, not live. And that's where the full generational impact hits. Kim and Barry didn't just raise their children to believe in faith and family values. They raised them to stay inside a very narrow structure. No outside opinions. No friendships beyond approved social circles. No guidance on how to handle the world once it inevitably hit them. The parenting they chose was designed to isolate and shelter, not to equip and empower. What's worse is that the 3 youngest Plath daughters, who are still minors, were being raised in that same system until recently. Without changes, they risked living out the exact same storyline. But the split between Kim and Barry could be a turning point. If Kim is truly stepping away from that tightly tied ideology, there might finally be a chance for the next generation of Plaths to learn, to grow, and to live beyond the boundaries that kept the older kids stuck. When Welcome to Plathville first aired, the Plaths felt like something straight out of a carefully curated brochure for conservative family life. A big, attractive brood raised away from modern society, guided by faith, discipline, and simplicity. No TVs, no internet, no dating, no Halloween. Kim and Barry presented their lifestyle like it was the answer to a chaotic world, as if they had built the perfect blueprint for raising children in purity and peace. But as the seasons went on, that pristine image started to crack, loudly and on camera. What we saw behind the scenes painted a much more complicated reality. Instead of harmony, there was tension. Instead of joyful obedience, you had kids emotionally suffocating. As much as the family tried to control their narrative, the cameras slowly captured what couldn't be hidden: moments of pain, resentment, confusion, and eventually, rebellion. Ethan and Olivia began pulling away. Mariah started expressing herself more boldly. Micah charted a new path. And Kim? Kim quietly began detaching herself from the deeply rooted identity she'd lived in for decades. It's ironic. The very platform meant to showcase their godly example may have been what helped fracture it. Reality television shines a light, and despite how much you try to filter or frame the truth, the audience can see what's real. The moments where Kim looked checked out, the confusion on Barry's face when he realized she was serious about leaving, the kids' sadness, anger, avoidance. These were real. And maybe, in a strange way, the show gave Kim the first sliver of autonomy she'd allowed herself. For a woman who had dedicated her entire adult life to raising children in isolation, having a camera on her, watching her think, move, question, it might have opened a door she didn't even know existed. With the show came attention, and with attention came opportunity. A paycheck, a public platform, a voice. Something women in her position rarely have. Without Welcome to Plathville, would she have been able to leave? Would she have even dared? The breakdown of the Plath marriage wasn't sudden. It was years in the making. But now, for the whole world to see, the carefully curated brand of godly perfection has collapsed. What's left behind isn't something easy to judge. It's messy, painful, raw, but it's real. And sometimes, real is what has to happen before healing can even begin. What's happening with the Plath family isn't just reality TV drama. It's a mirror of something much deeper. This story is about more than a 24-year marriage ending. It's about the cost of maintaining control over people's lives in the name of faith, and what happens when someone decides they can't live that way anymore. Kim leaving Barry isn't just a wife walking away from a husband. It's a woman finally choosing herself after decades of being told that her only value came from serving others. And the kids? They're the living proof of what happens when you raise children with walls instead of windows, isolated from the world, undereducated, shielded instead of guided. Some of them are slowly finding their way out, but not without bruises, not without heartbreak. And it's hard not to ask, what would their lives look like now if they'd been given more room to question, explore, and grow up with balance instead of fear? Now, I want to know what you think. Are you Team Kim, Team Barry, or do you believe they both share responsibility? Can you understand Kim's decision, or do you feel for Barry trying to save what's left? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all, and this time, your opinions mean even more, because this isn't just about the Plaths. It's about families like this across the country who look perfect on the outside, but behind closed doors are full of pain, silence, and unmet needs. In a world where tradition is so often used as a mask for control, seeing someone walk away can be incredibly powerful, and frightening, and liberating, not because it's easy, but because sometimes it's necessary. Kim didn't leave for attention. She left because she couldn't keep pretending everything was okay, and that should matter. That should make us think. Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more real-time. LK on Welcome to Plathville. This is Sabrina with TLC's Welcome to Plathville News. I'll be back soon with more updates, because if there's one thing we've learned, it's that in this family, the truth never stays buried for long.